Welcome everybody, this is How to English with Gav Em.
It's a podcast about teaching and learning English as a foreign language.
All opinions stated are personal and source materials will be referenced where possible. Hi Em.
Hello.
Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I am ready.
Okay.
Gav.
Sorry, Gav. Gav.
Okay, don't
I need
worry.
to keep saying your name, don't I?
Hi Em.
Hi, Gav.
How you doing?
I'm fine. How are you?
Are you
Gav?
ready?
Yeah, I'm ready, Gav.
Here we go.
Good.
So, today, Em, we're going to do the big one. This is
that?
the self-titled episode.
Oh, self-titled, like the name of what?
It's the name of the podcast. Is the name of the episode.
I love it.
Okay, so I guess the listeners already know that we're talking about how to teach and learn.
Yeah, that's very logical.
Yeah, we've finally got round to it on
Yes.
episode,
Blah, blah, blah,
20-something.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
How to actually teach
How
and
to-
how to actually learn.
exactly, we're going to go into a bit more detail this time. Just make it, well, I shouldn't give too much away, should I? Let's lead up to it slowly.
All right,
Okay.
keep it secret.
So, as I said, we're going to start with something that makes it memorable for the students.
So that's your number one tip.
That's it. That's where I'm coming in.
Make it memorable.
Yes,
How-
this is the foundations of our learning triangle.
Triangle. Okay.
Memorable. Okay.
What?
So-
Right. Okay.
Okay,
I'm
so
going to go with you.
Picture it. Okay. So, teacher says to the student something. There you go.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah. And how is that student going to remember?
Yeah, that's definitely a very good question. So,
Mm-hmm.
what tips have you got to making it memorable apart from something shocking, impactful?
That works. That's a really good tip.
Yeah.
Shock them.
Like what? How?
Shouting, whispering.
Oh, yeah.
I think we mentioned some of this before.
I didn't. Yeah, but you're right.
Really getting somebody's attention is memorable.
That's
They will
true.
remember. Because I even say to my students, so what was the last lesson that we had? And they just tell me one from about 6 months ago, whether it was actually really memorable.
Something they remember. Yeah,
something they
you're
remember.
right. And I think if you've said 1,000 times third person S, third person S, third person S, and then one day you just say third person S, and the student's like, sorry?
Oh my God, I'd be
and they're
terrified.
kind of looking in at you, sort of trying to hear you, and then you slowly just say it quietly again, and then they're like, "Oh God, is that what you were trying to tell me?" They might actually remember it.
They might.
Perhaps.
That might work.
I think with memorable comes variation, like unpredictable would
Okay.
be memorable, wouldn't it?
Yes.
And not just techniques.
The unexpected.
Yeah, not just techniques, but I think also memorable activities, memorable texts,
Yep.
even memorable videos.
Yes.
Just because often when you do ask, what did we do in that lesson? Nobody's going to say we did present perfect or we did the conditional. They
Hopefully
say
not.
what they usually do is they say, oh, we talked about that YouTube video with that thing that happened.
Yeah.
And that's what stays, I think, in people's minds. Nobody
Yes.
has that amazing present perfect lesson where the grammar was just, everybody remembered it. It's,
Unless it was a really bad lesson, and then they might say, we did grammar, it was present perfect.
and everybody hated it, and we'll never forget it because we hate you for it. Yeah,
Yes, that's
so
memorable in a negative way.
it is. Well, that's arguable if that works as well. But I think if you can present it, the language, in a way that the student doesn't even realise that it's grammar or that it's an academic thing. They just remember it was a really interesting topic, and from that, language comes naturally.
How could the student look for materials that were more memorable? Do you think that they could have a look at videos on YouTube, for example, and find something that's a bit different or a bit more interesting or something they're not familiar with? Would that be more memorable and maybe more
I don't know.
effective?
It's very hard to know what will be memorable. I think we only know after it, don't we? You know, we look back and think, I remember. You very rarely think, I'm going to remember this moment. You know, in life, generally, it's not often that you do think that.
So I'm not recommending that people go and look at shocking things in order to
learn. That's what I'm wondering if you were suggesting it. I don't think it's easy to identify the things that you're going to remember.
Okay.
Maybe our job as a teacher is to do that for students, but to help students remember, I think that's a separate, maybe a separate topic.
Yes.
We've discussed about how to remember language. I think, you know, today we're focusing on how to teach and learn tips for that. You know, like what can you do? I suppose it fits in, doesn't it?
It sort of fits in, but I was just going to say a typical one is telling stories, and that's a really good way to, like, it's quite memorable when you're not focusing just on the language, you're focusing on the context, and that's what makes it more interesting.
Yeah, I think they say that, don't they, about memory in general? If you want to remember a deck of cards.
Who are you quoting now?
Well,
I've got to find another article.
Heard memory skills. If you want to remember
is this
a
your
sequence
personal
of
opinion?
cards, you have to remember the Jack of Hearts went into the building number 2, and
you're finding the article for this one.
All right, I'll find it, but I know it exists, and it is proven that if you make a story around something, like always give an example with the grammar.
Oh.
You know, don't just isolate the sentence.
Okay.
Put it into a story, put it into a context.
Yes. Okay.
And I think you're right about that memorable thing. Like I think we've said this sentence before, when he got to the lesson, he realised he hadn't got dressed or something.
He had forgotten his trousers.
He had forgotten his trousers. So that is such a funny image.
That is, and
a funny story.
That's what I do actually when I teach some words. If I want to teach something like, I don't know, embarrassed.
Yes.
I'll say, imagine if I'm standing in front of you talking to you in the classroom and suddenly my trousers fall down.
That's
How do I feel?
That's a lasting image, isn't it?
It is a lasting image.
You're not going to forget that image. So, yeah, I think those things are very useful as a teacher and maybe as a student. If you're learning a new word, a vocabulary word that's not very easy to remember or familiar, put it into a funny sentence or a story in your head that helps you remember them.
Is it called a memory palace or something?
I don't know. I've never heard of it. It sounds lovely.
It does. And
memory
like you
palace.
said, you put all different objects in there. But anyway, yes, I'm getting confused now.
Okay.
Distracted, I should say.
Okay.
So that is memorable. Make it memorable. Telling stories is a good tip.
I agree.
Okay. Keeping it relevant.
Relevant.
So relevant to the learner. And how can what you're teaching them be connected directly with their lives?
Can I? All right, maybe I think of an example. Like I had a student who was a manager of the fish department in a supermarket.
Brilliant! What a brilliant job!
Yeah, I can't think of any other student who I could have gone into that much depth with about fish. To be honest, are you
going to use puns now?
No, I'm really not. I'm genuinely, sincere here that I spent a hell of a lot of time researching fish. And I wouldn't do that for anybody else. It was only because it was his job and he needed it and he needed to be able to describe, all the different parts of the fish. And
that's amazing.
So
fish anatomy.
That was relevant.
Okay.
And useful. But I wouldn't use that lesson again, unfortunately.
That's not relevant to 99% of your class.
Yeah. Basic fish anatomy maybe, but not like the very detailed stuff. Okay. So is that a good example?
That's a really good example. Yeah. And a more simple way, like if you're teaching emailing language to somebody who doesn't email, that's not very useful. Telephone language, it has to be what the student's actually going to use in the future. So it needs to be relevant and connected with their lives.
Yeah, and there's a lot of exercises in books about, very specific things on phone, email, and I think you need to cherry pick in those books what will actually help the students. And as the student, as we always say, golden rule, tell your teacher exactly what you need to do. So don't just say, I need to practice emailing. Say, I need to practice emailing with people who have to schedule meetings or, talk to HR departments or whatever. So the teacher then knows what kind of emails
That's it.
you're sending.
Definitely. So keep it relevant. I like that. Okay, good. And my next point is keep it real.
Keep it real. That's
Keep
a nice
it real.
phrase, isn't it? People say that, don't they? As
That
they
is
say,
an
like they
expression.
go, bye-bye, keep it real.
Yeah, be yourself. Like,
Yeah. What do you mean in relation to
well,
teaching?
it fits in quite well with the others. Maybe it's a bit like relevant, real, like real life.
Okay, I can think of something. Like, I was teaching phrasal verbs last week, and
Real situations.
one student, I said, have you had to give up anything, or have you given up anything recently? And he said, oh yes, I gave up smoking. And I said, oh my God, that's amazing,
Right.
really? And he said, no, it's just an example.
Oh no, I hate it when they do that.
Yeah, and I said, oh, right, well, that's fine, good example, nice English, but make it real. Make it real.
Yeah, that's what I say. I say, like, tell me about your real life. Tell me about what actually happens. So even if your teacher asks you to, I don't know, complete a sentence with, if I won $1 million or whatever, what would you really do?
That's your first mistake, you see. You said dollars. You've got to make it relevant. You know, you've got to make that currency.
They might be living
their
in
own currency. All right, maybe they're
They might be living in a country that has dollars.
All right,
You're just assuming they're not.
Just a small thing.
That's a good point, actually, because if you play a lottery in a different country, I think you're not allowed to win.
But it's an interesting conversation.
That's
real.
That's real. Again, we're having a real conversation. It's not hypothetical,
No,
even though we're using hypothetical language.
Yeah. So
stuff.
it doesn't have to be even real. It just needs to be, we're getting back to
Real.
relevant, are we? I don't know. And I think as well that also ties into memorable. Because if a student tells you something about their life,
Yeah.
I think they're going to remember it. And I always say this to my exam students because sometimes they do create like these little dialogues sometimes, and I'm like, really, did that happen? And they're like, no. And I said, but just don't do that in an exam, because once you start to lie, it's that, not to say lie, but once you start to say things that aren't true about yourself, it's that classic thing. You just have to make a bigger lie to make the lie. You have to keep inventing.
Okay.
And that's tiring, and
That
that's
is tiring.
really hard.
Yeah.
So I always say to my exam students, just say what's true, and they're like, well, it's boring. I don't have any pets. Something like that.
Okay.
And I say, well, that's fine. You just have to speak. You just have to say, well,
Talk about your
unfortunately-
friends' pets.
Yes, that's right.
Talk
Just
about your pets when you were a child, as
find
long as it
the-
doesn't make you too sad.
Find a link. Just find something that, can help you express it because
Yeah.
it's real for
Yeah,
you, and
yeah.
it's also, interesting
And that's
to
the
talk
point.
about real things.
That's the point of what we're doing. It's about making it this communication real and meaningful between people. That's what we're encouraging them to do. We're not just creating these very fake situations. We want people to really genuinely share their
Exactly.
ideas. It reminds me, I have done an exercise with my student where we opened a page of a car manufacturer. I think the student was looking for a new car. So we opened one that he was particularly interested in, and then we compared it to another one that he was kind of interested in, and I got him to describe the differences between them. And it was really real for him, and he actually learned quite a lot about the car that he was interested in. And another student, I remember we spent at least half an hour looking for musical potties.
Potties.
Yeah, for babies.
God, they make them musical?
Yeah, when you get like a little sound every time it
No,
receives.
I really didn't know
Okay.
that. That's
So yeah,
interesting.
we had a good search online for some of those, and
And
it was
also-
really useful for the student. That was my point. It was,
Yeah.
So they're not just
I was
sitting
going
there.
to say that word you've said, useful. Isn't that another one? Like the golden rules of... How many sides has this triangle got? What was the triangle thing?
It's getting bigger.
I think it's like a hexagon now. It's
Well, I
gonna
was
be
thought we were building on top of it till we get to
pyramid.
Yeah.
All
maybe
right. Okay. Yeah, fine. So yes, useful, really, because then they've actually learnt something
Yes.
that they can go out in the world and use.
And
So
we mentioned before, take them to the supermarket, take them for a coffee, or take your teacher, even better, and you can have real experiences in real places.
yeah,
Now, repeated. It must be
Repeated.
repeated. So
Okay.
students, once you've written this vocabulary or this grammar into your notebooks, go back to it again later. Don't just write in there and think, oh, I know that, or I don't need that anymore because it's here.
Students, listen to this. It's good advice.
Return to that language, read it again, and then do some example sentences. Think about how you can use that in your next lesson with your teacher.
It's got to be done at least 3 or 4 times, I'd say, before you start remembering it.
Personal
I'm not
experience?
an expert, it's an opinion, but I don't think you can see a word once and immediately, well, some people can, but it's good. And as a teacher, I think I fail a bit with this. I do sometimes just move on too much and I don't go back. And I think as a teacher, it's really important to know and to remember that students need repetition and they need to revise. And I don't know why, I just think that it's like boring for students, but it's not, is it? No. It's really not. It's a really important thing.
It is a bit boring, but like you say, I think you need to see new language 2 or 3 times at least before it's definitely in there.
And what sort of distance, like how much time between do you think is optimum, like for remembering?
I think daily. Really.
Oh, really? So that would be more on the student then to actually keep a list or like we've had before, like flashcards or something. Yeah. So
put them around your bedroom.
Yeah. Okay.
Put something on your phone. Use the apps that we mentioned before in the previous episode. Yeah. So you see them over and over again. And the teacher should try and remember to use the language in the lesson, or again get the flashcards out and just say, "All right, you give me an example sentence with this."
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
very effective.
I agree. Repetition is very important.
Okay, that's good.
But maybe not boring repetition. If you can make it an interesting game or something.
Yeah.
So it's memorable and repetitive.
Yes, and fun.
Well, I think I said that,
In a game, fun. And what's also a really nice thing for students is your teacher will teach you, hopefully, relevant language that is real, and you will see it in different places. So you'll learn some new words, and then you'll be reading an article or you'll be watching a video, and then suddenly those words that your teacher taught you are there right in front of you, and you think, wow, my teacher's teaching me really good stuff.
Yeah.
And now I know it. That's it.
Yeah.
I've got produce or vocalize or write.
Yeah, okay. Are they the same, produce and vocalize? I mean, I think produce maybe is definitely the key. There's no point having everything passively.
This is more like a well, isn't it? This is a well of knowledge rather than a pyramid or a triangle.
You've changed it now from geometry to irrigation.
Yeah, I think it's sort of flowing.
All right, whatever you want. It can be a river, it can be a sea, whatever you want. Just choose whichever one fits best.
It's adapting as we're using it.
Okay. I think production, there's no point having all of this passive stuff that's just there.
All this knowledge in your mind.
Yeah, and I think I have no research again, but there must be something that says when you activate this stuff.
Well, from your own experience.
Okay, from my own experience, yes. Like if you plan a lesson, for example, you can plan, read about it, look at the teacher's notes, think about it all the time. Until you've actually taught that lesson, I don't think you really feel you know it very well. But then once you've taught that lesson, it's like you've learned how to teach it, and then you do it again and maybe improve, change a few things. And I think teaching and learning is the same, really. Yeah. Once a student has learnt that grammar point, language, once they've actually used it, talked about it, it's then something more, I don't know, like deeper. It's more meaningful, isn't it?
Yeah, it is definitely. I think, and the same with the student. If until they're really producing it in the classroom or producing it in real life, it's just an academic, or it's a knowledge that they have.
Which is why it's so good to get the students to explain it to each other. Like if you get a grammar point and somebody's like not following it, or you're looking at someone's face and they're like blank, and you're okay, like you're obviously, we can go over it again. But I'm not going to tell you this again. Obviously, there are 5 other people in the room that were listening to me describing this thing.
Yeah.
So that let them then explain it. And then you also can see whether it's been understood properly.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I think as teachers we've had to stop explanations and say, well, sorry, that isn't what it is at all. You haven't understood either. Like, let's go back to the beginning, start again. But then it's lovely when you get a student who really has understood it, and then they get the pleasure of explaining it.
That's wonderful.
They get to use their English, and that's a great skill, isn't it, to explain something.
Yeah, students become teachers. I think
And
it's wonderful.
As a teacher, you just sit back and you just watch
Yeah.
and enjoy it and think, yeah,
That's really good.
So I quite like it when there's somebody that's not really following it, or not really, but like if somebody comes in late, for example.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
I did. I love it. It's a great opportunity. Just catch up with everybody.
Yeah, and also you can do the activities where you've got Group A learn certain words or learn about something, and the student B or Group B learn about something else, and then they need to exchange that. Is that
Perfect.
Jigsaw again, isn't it?
Maybe you're into these names and labels.
Exchanging
yeah, it could be.
information.
I think it's information exchange. Yeah,
that's it.
It's lovely. Okay.
That's really effective.
I'm going to bring in one. Oh, go on.
I was just going to summarise like...
no, I'm not ready there yet. Are we summarising now?
I was just going to say like that is repetition. That's
right.
hopefully real. They're talking
Yeah.
about something that's real and related. It's relevant to their lives. Something that's memorable because it's going to be a memorable activity.
Okay.
Covers all of those.
Yeah, okay. I was going to add the pace of the lesson is very important, I think, to how well the information is received and how much the students take in.
Yeah.
Because there's no point just having 60 minutes of information.
No.
Just bang, bang, bang.
Yes.
Nobody can actually absorb that. So I think...
So you mean that's the teacher just basically lecturing the student?
Yeah,
okay.
or even just, and here's this activity, and now you're going to practice, and this is this, and now there's this, and now, and like the students don't get a minute to digest, reflect, absorb all of that.
Yeah.
So I think it's really good to have moments of quiet time, or just, stop for a minute and say, okay, who's got questions? Do we need to go back through it?
Yeah.
And don't be scared to do that.
Students generally don't have questions, unfortunately.
They don't, but that doesn't mean they don't need time just to process. Because I think if you say, right, okay, here's this, and who's got questions? No one? Okay. Have they had time to even think about whether they have a question?
Sure.
So sometimes they might just need longer.
Yeah.
Or even if you say, right, everyone make a question.
Yeah.
Think of a question based on these points I've just said.
Or these new words that we've just learned.
Yeah.
And that will check that the student knows the word and they know how to use it in context.
And the pacing of that is, it's like, any activity or any event you go to in life, or anything, like they say with having kids, you're supposed to have these like activities that are warming, make them energized, and then relaxing, and then quiet time.
Okay.
And it's just human nature. I think that we need these active times and down times.
Okay, in your opinion.
You can cut that bit out if you don't like it.
Personally speaking.
Yes. I know I need that.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. And you're right, that can be a flaw in the teacher's teaching methods, that they will not give time to the students to reflect. And the teacher's really scared of silence and scared of times where the lesson is not a fast pace.
Yeah.
I think I like to remember when I'm teaching and try and think what's the pace that I live, and to be honest, it's quite slow.
Really, I was going to say the total opposite. I thought compared to other people, I thought you lived quite a fast-paced life.
No, but when I'm learning, I'd say that I like to take my time. I couldn't rush because it just wouldn't stay in my mind.
And I think when you've had a class for a while, as a teacher, kind of who's keeping up, who's not, if you need to slow down a bit. So it's kind of natural after a while. But I think that the first couple of lessons, it's better maybe just to go on a slightly slower rate to just see who's keeping up.
Yeah.
And then maybe just start getting a bit faster. But pacing's important, and also types of activities, I think. Not 60 minutes of just speaking. Not
That
60
like,
minutes
that
of just
sounds like
listening.
a whole episode.
Which
What
one?
you're describing, pace and
Yeah.
how to break it down into.
I think
the
we
lesson
could do
parts.
that. Yeah,
It's a
good
idea.
idea to talk about. But yeah, varied activities,
Mm-hmm.
some quiet activities, some games, some reading, some grammar, whatever,
Yeah.
just mixed up.
Yeah,
make it more interesting in that way.
Definitely. And lots of active learning, as we've sort of mentioned before, that the students should be involved. There should be something they're trying to get out of this activity. There should be some kind of conclusion to it, where there's some fulfilling.
Like a target, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah. Which, I mean, also, I think we've discussed it before, but when you've got a group of people and they're all at different levels maybe, and they're all different personalities, you've got to really try to go across the board, at a pace that everyone's happy with.
Yeah.
Because it's so varied, isn't it? What people can actually do compared to each other.
I absolutely agree with you. Yeah. And I usually follow one of the slower students. They sort of pace it rather slower. Anyway, I think that's a whole different thing. But
What do they say? Fly with the fastest, is it? Or whatever with the slowest? I don't know, but you pick your pace.
Whatever you think. So as you said at the beginning of that part, whatever suits you as a teacher and your students.
Yeah.
That's it. I wanted to say just briefly about how and when learning happens, because that is a big part of how to teach and learn. When does the learning happen? I think it's a bit of a mystery, to be honest, because I say, actually, my students say to me, Gav, I'm stuck. I'm not moving forward in my English. What should I do? And it's quite hard for me to say, you need to read more. You need to listen to more stuff in English. That's the best way. I think it just happens. But
you can't say that to them. Don't worry, it just happens.
Well, you can say it, but they have to realise that they've still got to put a lot of work in there.
Exactly. I think if you say it just happens, they're like, oh, well, okay, I don't need to do anything.
I'm going to go to the pub then.
It'll just happen.
But I think it's finding that balance of working really hard on your English, but not stressing about it. Like when they're speaking to me, I know they're making mistakes and they know that they're making mistakes.
Yeah.
But
it's a vicious circle, isn't it?
They can't just focus on the language because then they're not really communicating. So it's you do need to just try and communicate. But sometimes, if you keep making the same mistakes, if the teacher says, come on, you need to really start focusing and not make that mistake anymore, then, really try to make yourself correct it.
Yeah, conscious effort.
That's it. But otherwise, it just happens.
Yeah, there's a certain amount of just relax, don't worry about it. Obviously, the more people worry about it, then they get stressed, and that is definitely not going to help them learn. And also, what you say about when does it actually happen, when that teaching moment, I think it's very very little amount of time in an actual lesson where learning is actually taking place, especially as I said with a group of 10 people. How do you know you've got everybody on the same page at the same time, learning?
Sure.
I think you've got to just keep going with it and hope at some point somebody is learning something.
I think from my experience as a teacher, there are moments where there feels, maybe it's just in my head, but there's a moment of clarity. And you really feel you've got everybody's attention and you're really explaining either a piece of language, grammar, vocabulary, whatever it is. And I've really felt it. And to be honest, I think it's the one thing that I absolutely love about teaching. And I get goosebumps still.
Okay.
It still happens to me. And I think, oh my God, that was a really amazing moment. And you sort of look at the students and they got it. They really understood what it was you were trying to teach.
I agree. The same way. I feel like I get tingles. And honestly, it's not that often, unfortunately. I mean, it's great when it happens, but that time when you really do have everyone's attention and you really feel like it's going in, they're asking really relevant questions that means they're getting it. And you're like, oh God, it's happening. It's happening. They're actually learning it.
It's wonderful and it's very fleeting.
It is,
It's just
and that's
like
what I mean.
There for a second and
yeah.
then it's gone again. Do you think teaching online so much has kind of made that more difficult? Because the students don't seem as engaged. I can't really tell, but I'm sometimes,
don't know.
especially with groups, you look at them and you think, is that person actually just emailing their boss and sort of, is that other person checking something else? And
I don't know. No, I haven't really thought about that, but now I have that in my head. I might be thinking that same thing, but hopefully
maybe
not.
that's something that we can look at in the future as well.
What, whether your students are emailing other people while you're talking to them?
Yeah. Are those learning moments still happening as much online as they are in real person? Because we're people. We love connecting with each other. And is connecting online as effective as in person?
Sounds like a good title for a podcast.
We've gone over 30 minutes. I think we have
No
to
way.
let these people get on with their lives. Okay. So I've covered everything there. So my triangle has turned from a pyramid into a river which flowed down a well of knowledge and relevancy, memorable reality.
Okay. Floodgates.
Now I'm just repeating myself.
Floodgates open. Well, we said repetition was important. But
Okay,
not
but I
boring.
have vocalised it at least. Okay, so to all the active learners out there and all the memorable lessons that they will have.
And all the hard-working teachers.
Exactly.
Making that learning happen.
It's goodbye from me, Gav.
And goodbye from me, Em.
See ya.